Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working.
So his mom got on TV, as everybody has seen, and said that she didn't know me. And man, that can't be farthest from the truth.
Honey, if you thought the audio connected to Nolan Wells' boat incident was already wild, the new details raising questions around this case take things to another level. Now people online are pointing to what they see as major inconsistencies in statements linked to Nolan's mom, and naturally, that has people asking what's really going on. One big question involves Nolan's friend, who reportedly said he practically lived at their house. So why would Nolan's mom allegedly say she didn't know him? Then there's the claim that she never received communication from the other boy's family, even though screenshots reportedly show attempts were made to reach out. Those details are getting serious attention. Then there's the legal paperwork. Nolan's mom reportedly listed herself as the sole heir in a petition. Under Mississippi inheritance law, depending on the circumstances, both living parents may have inheritance rights when an unmarried child with no children passes away. So people are asking why Nolan's father apparently wasn't included in that sworn filing. None of this automatically proves wrongdoing, but the questions surrounding these reported inconsistencies are getting louder. Now the family is taking things straight to the social media companies. Snapchat, WhatsApp, TikTok, Meta, Instagram, Facebook, and Life360 have reportedly been hit with major court subpoenas. They're asking for basically everything available: chat logs, deleted snaps, location history, IP addresses, previous usernames, and any media that may still exist. Why? According to the family, information from July 4th may have been removed from Nolan's phone, and they apparently want to figure out exactly what was there. At the same time, more information connected to Nolan's friends is starting to surface. Warren Hudson's father, the father of one of the boys reportedly connected to the situation, also offered a $50,000 reward for information. That's a serious amount of money, and with so many different claims floating around, this case keeps getting more complicated. So let's break down what's actually being reported. One of the biggest recent updates involves audio reportedly recorded around 4 p.m. on the day of the incident.
The last time I saw Nolan, I was walking to the boat. This was before the fight. It's me and my old lady. We had just got out of a group of people. Nolan was walking towards Wyatt's boat. I was walking in the opposite direction towards my boat. And I dabbed Nolan up. I made a slick comment about something, actually about the girl that he was with. I made a slick comment to him, us joking around, and I kept going. And not even 10 minutes after that is when I got to him.
Nolan's friends were on a boat and called sea tow, saying the vessel was taking on water and they needed help. During that call, some listeners claimed they can hear voices in the background yelling things like, "Nolan, wake up," and asking whether he was okay. And that timing matters. The friends reportedly claimed Nolan wasn't on the boat when it started taking on water. According to their account, Nolan stayed behind on Horn Island at around 6 p.m. and refused to get back on the boat. That apparent timeline difference is now getting a lot of attention. So here's the question people keep asking. Why were they reportedly yelling Nolan's name if he wasn't even supposed to be on that boat? That detail has put even more attention on the timeline. Friends on the boat reportedly said Nolan chose to stay behind on Horn Island with a girl named Katie. But according to reports, Katie gave a different account through her sister and directly to investigators, saying Nolan did not stay behind with her and that she believed he left on the boat with his friends. That's a pretty major difference in the stories. Then there's the medical report, which has sparked even more questions online. Nolan was reportedly found face down near the water's edge, while the official examination diagram reportedly documented significant discoloration and an injury beneath the skin on the back of his head. People are now questioning how that injury happened, especially since the report apparently didn't document similar marks on his neck or back. But without confirmed evidence explaining the injury, jumping to conclusions wouldn't be fair. There's also the distress call. The boat was reportedly described as taking on water in an area around 30 to 31 feet deep. Yet records reportedly show the operator later canceled the sea tow request, saying the problem had been resolved. Timeline information also reportedly shows the boat traveling between docks and Fort Bayou later that evening, leaving people questioning exactly what happened during that window.
Brantley joining us tonight, and she shows herself in that video showing what she is doing. What does adding EQ mean, Ms. Brantley?
Adding EQ is basically selecting a certain frequency of the actual sound and either deleting or removing a certain noise, something that's problematic to the ear, deleting that or boosting that. That's literally all EQing is.
And there's another detail people keep bringing up. Despite claims that communication or posting was difficult because reception around the island was limited, the caller apparently had enough cell service to make contact while out on the water. That difference has fueled even more questions online, although weak reception can obviously vary depending on location, device, and timing. But one person pushing back against several of the theories surrounding this case is Officer Brandon Tatum. According to Tatum, there is witness information supporting the account that Nolan was not on the boat when the group left, and that he remained behind on Horn Island. If accurate, that could challenge some of the speculation spreading online. Tatum also said he personally interviewed 4 of the guys who had been on the boat with Nolan. According to the account they gave him, Nolan left his phone on the boat, nobody touched it, and nobody knew his password. Then there's that widely shared photo of Nolan with his friends. Some posts reportedly presented it as a picture taken on the day of the incident, but Tatum shared a screenshot of what he said was the original file metadata. That information reportedly showed the photo was actually taken on June 27th at 11:58 p.m., about a week earlier. That's one detail that could seriously change how people interpret the online timeline.
I was researching the Nolan Wells case, and I saw the transcript as it was being played, and my husband was also up. He said, "What's wrong?" I'm like, if this is real, this changes everything.
There's also video footage making the rounds that reportedly shows the boat Nolan Wells' friends were using to return from Horn Island at around 4:30 p.m. on July 4th. In the clip, 7 people appear to be visible as the group tries to get the boat started, and Nolan does not appear to be among them. Tatum has pointed to this footage as evidence supporting his position that Nolan wasn't on the boat at that particular time. Then there's the viral audio. Tatum said audio experts examined both the original fab recording and the enhanced TMZ version. According to his account of that analysis, the experts did not identify the disturbing words about Nolan that some people online claimed they could hear. That's an important difference, because enhanced audio can sometimes be interpreted in very different ways. Tatum also claimed reception on Horn Island was extremely limited, around 1 or 2 bars, making social media uploads difficult. However, he acknowledged that other boys had photos and videos stored directly on their phones. That has left people wondering why Nolan's phone reportedly didn't contain similar material. And Tatum pushed back on claims that Nolan's friends didn't contact anyone afterward. He shared screenshots reportedly provided from Warren's phone, showing that Warren called Nolan's mother, Christine, at 11:07 p.m. on July 4th. Then there's what reportedly happened immediately after that first call.
On the 1:11 mark, you can hear in the background someone saying, "No, wake up, Wyatt, check his chest." So I ran this through my editing program. And listen, I am not a pro at audio by all means, but I did try to enhance the background so we can hear more of what was said. I'm going to feature just the parts where you can hear people talking in the background.
According to the call logs Tatum shared, Warren initially reached Nolan's mother, Christine, but the conversation was brief. Warren then called her back and reportedly spoke with her for about 5 minutes. Roughly 1 or 2 minutes after that conversation ended, Warren contacted the U.S. Coast Guard at 11:13 p.m. to report Nolan missing. Another disputed detail involves communication between Christine and the families of Nolan's friends. Christine had reportedly said she hadn't spoken to or heard from those families after they retained attorneys. But Tatum presented a screenshot of a text message allegedly sent directly to Christine on July 7th by Ashley Cole, the stepmother of one of the boys. In that message, Ashley reportedly provided her phone number and said she wanted to talk. That has people questioning whether Christine simply overlooked the message during an overwhelming situation, or whether there's another explanation. Without more context, it wouldn't be fair to assume she intentionally misled anyone. And another account has added even more questions. Nolan's friend Treston Shepard disputed Christine's reported television statement that she didn't know him. Tristan described a friendship with Nolan that he said began in their 9th grade math class after he moved to Ocean Springs, giving a very different picture of how well they knew each other. Tristan said he considered Nolan his best friend, someone who gave him relationship advice, supported his athletic journey overseas, and even called him on July 4. He also cleared up one important detail. They weren't childhood friends because Tristan moved to the area during high school. Still, he said they were extremely close.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Hello? Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right. All right. Do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me go look. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership, like, guaranteed. I don't
All
have
right.
the tag
Unless
on
you
here.
have a membership number. How many adults, sir? That was the question.
According to Tristan, he regularly visited Nolan's home, drove him to school, sometimes left his vehicle parked at the house for days, and even went on trips with Nolan. Tristan also pushed back against attorney Benjamin Crump's reported portrayal of Nolan as the only black person in an otherwise all-white friend group. According to Tristan, their circle was actually multiracial, including himself, an Asian friend, and a Mexican friend. He described Ocean Springs as a tight-knit community where, in his experience, people focused more on someone's character than race. Because of that, he strongly disagreed with framing the situation primarily around race. Of course, that represents Tristan's personal perspective and doesn't automatically settle the broader debate. Tristan also explained that he didn't travel to the island on the same boat as Nolan. Instead, he said he arrived on his uncle's boat with a group of 14 people to help with equipment and anchoring. He said the last time he saw Nolan was shortly before leaving the island. Tristan recalled joking with him about the girl he was with, greeting him, and telling him, "I love you. See you later." One detail still missing from Tristan's account is the exact time he says he last spoke with Nolan, and that timing could be important. But regardless, people online are still asking why Nolan's mom reportedly gave the impression that Tristan was basically a stranger when he describes himself as one of Nolan's closest friends and says he regularly spent time at their home. The other friends have also spoken about the intense backlash they and their families have reportedly faced. They described feeling heartbroken and afraid because of threats and public hostility, even saying they were nervous about attending Nolan's funeral or simply walking around their hometown.
All right. How many people, sir?
Like 7.
All right. Thank you. Does everyone have life jackets on or available to them?
Yes, we have life jackets available.
Did you notice that he said 7 people were on the boat and then they counted and it was just 6? Now, another thing I noticed in the full audio, when the dispatcher called the captain of the Coast Guard, the captain said, "I just talked to his grandpa and he said he doesn't need a tow."
They also claimed that, in their view, Nolan would have been upset seeing his friends publicly blamed without confirmed evidence. But one major question remains. What explains the reportedly missing material from Nolan's phone? If Nolan really left his phone on the boat, as some accounts claim, when and how did that material disappear? That doesn't automatically point to any particular person, and there could be other explanations, but it definitely adds another confusing layer to the timeline. Then, there's the probate paperwork. Nolan's mother, Christine Wells Wansley, reportedly filed documents in Jackson County, Mississippi, to open an estate for her son. According to reports, she named herself as the administratrix and listed herself as the sole heir at law. Again, people are questioning why Christine reportedly listed herself as the sole heir and why Nolan's father, who has appeared publicly alongside the family, was apparently left off that part of the paperwork. Now, choosing one parent to serve as the estate administrator can be completely normal and may make court filings easier. But being the administrator and being an heir are separate legal issues, so the exact wording and circumstances of the filing matter. With so many disputed details already surrounding the case, some people online are wondering whether there's family tension or simply a legal explanation that hasn't been fully understood yet. Without more verified information, suggesting some secret agenda would be pure speculation. From Christine Wansley's perspective as Nolan's grieving mother, however, the timeline and the reported behavior of people around Nolan that day raised serious questions. Based on what she knew about her son,
It's sounds like a bunch of kids on board on Horn Island, and he's saying the boat is sinking.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just actually got off the phone with his grandpa, who I'm guessing is the owner of the boat. And
Is it
he
Jerry?
said that, Jerry. Yeah, he said,
Okay.
I just hung up with him. He said that they don't need any help right now, but if something changes, he'll call me back. So I'm guessing that they may have figured it out, because that's what he said. So they're in a panic and their boat won't crank.
Yeah, they're in a panic.
Certain details apparently didn't add up to her. Nolan's friends tell a very different story. They argue that what some people interpret as signs of a cover-up may actually be misunderstandings. Warren reportedly insisted that nobody removed anything from Nolan's phone because they didn't know his passcode. He also explained that when teenagers are spending time waist-deep in water at a crowded beach, leaving their phones safely behind on the boat wouldn't be unusual. And that explanation brings the focus right back to the phone. If Warren's account is accurate and Nolan intentionally left his phone behind while everyone was in the water, then simply finding the device on the boat wouldn't automatically prove that anyone had gone through it. The bigger question is whether anything was actually removed from the phone in the first place, and if so, when that happened. That's exactly why the subpoenas sent to the social media and location tracking companies could become so important. Instead of relying only on what remained stored on the physical device, those records could potentially help investigators compare account activity, timestamps, location information, messages, and other available data from around July 4th. If something doesn't match the timeline people have described, that could raise new questions. But if the records line up with the friends' accounts, they could also clear up some of the speculation that has been spreading. There's another important issue here. Several people involved are remembering an emotional and chaotic day from their own point of view. One person might remember a conversation happening before another event, while somebody else remembers it differently. That doesn't automatically mean either person is lying, but when you put the phone records, boat movements, witness statements, photos, videos, and call logs side by side, even small differences in timing can become important. And that's where the timeline becomes even more important. Instead of treating every screenshot, clip, or statement as a smoking gun, each piece has to be matched against a specific time. Who was on Horn Island? Who had already left? Where was the boat at that exact moment? And which details can actually be backed up by digital records rather than memory alone?
My question is, why is the grandfather saying, no, they're fine, they don't need a tow? And it gets even more confusing because on the Officer Tatum show, Warren was one of the kids on the boat. He was saying that the last time he saw Nolan was 3 o'clock. But then he talks about how when they were leaving at 4:30 and the boat was having issues, they said, Nolan, get the F on here.
The sea tow call is a perfect example. On its own, a boat taking on water and later canceling assistance might sound suspicious, but there could also be a straightforward explanation if the problem was fixed. What matters is whether the boat's movements afterward match what the people on board told investigators. Jeep's information, marina cameras, phone location records, and timestamps from photos or videos could potentially help fill in those gaps. The same standard has to apply to the viral audio. Different versions circulating online have led people to hear different things, and once somebody tells you what they think a muffled voice is saying, it can be surprisingly easy to hear those same words yourself. That's why the original recording matters far more than edited or enhanced clips shared across social media. And there's still the question of when Nolan was last independently seen on the island. Treston described seeing and speaking with him shortly before leaving, but without an exact time attached to that encounter, investigators would still need to place it alongside the other known events from that afternoon. And pinning down that exact time could change how several other details are viewed. If investigators can establish when Treston last saw Nolan, they can compare that moment with boat movements, calls, photos, videos, and statements from everyone else who was still around. Even a difference of 20 or 30 minutes could completely change which version of the timeline fits best. That's also why the original files matter so much. A social media repost might show a video without the full timestamp, while the original file can sometimes contain metadata showing when it was created. We already saw how one widely circulated photo was reportedly connected to June 27th, rather than July 4th. So any new image or clip needs to be verified before people start building theories around it. Then there's the difference between what witnesses personally saw and what they assumed happened. Katie reportedly believed Nolan left with his friends, while other accounts said he remained on Horn Island. Those statements may sound completely incompatible, but investigators would need to determine whether either person actually watched Nolan leave or stay behind.
And he's like, no, I'm going to stay back. So he would have saw him at 4:30 instead of 3 o'clock, right?
The last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock, and Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms, Katie. But when we were leaving, Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues.
And that creates another key window in the timeline, the period after different groups began leaving the island. Who was still there? Who saw Nolan during that window? And whether any available digital records can place him at a specific location could become critical to understanding what happened next. That specific window is where witness accounts could become especially important. If Nolan was still on Horn Island after certain boats had already left, investigators would need to know exactly who remained nearby and whether anyone saw him later. But if reliable location data or original footage places him somewhere else, then parts of the timeline may need to be reconsidered. And this is where eyewitness memory can get tricky. July 4th, on a busy island, means plenty of people, boats, noise, and activity. Hours later, two people can remember the same moment differently, without either person intentionally giving false information. That's why investigators usually look for details that can be independently checked: timestamps, calls, Jeep's records, original videos, and other digital information. There's also an important difference between saying, "I saw Nolan stay behind," and saying, "I assumed Nolan stayed behind." Those statements might sound similar in casual conversation, but they mean very different things when reconstructing a timeline. The same applies to someone assuming he boarded a boat without actually seeing him get on board. So the next major question isn't necessarily which person sounds more convincing, it's which parts of each account can be matched to something independently verifiable.
And no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision to stay out on the island.
And with subpoenas reportedly seeking records from multiple platforms, investigators may eventually have information that wasn't available from Nolan's phone alone, including account activity and location-related data connected to that crucial period. But even those digital records have to be read carefully. A login, location point, or message timestamp can show activity connected to an account or device, but it doesn't always prove who was physically holding the phone at that exact moment. And in this case, that distinction matters because Nolan's friends reportedly said his phone remained on the boat while he was elsewhere. That means investigators may need to compare several sources instead of relying on one piece of data. If Nolan's phone shows activity, while witnesses say he wasn't near it, was something happening automatically in the background? Was an app updating on its own? Or does the activity require somebody to have actually used the device? Those are technical questions that platform records and device analysis could potentially help answer. The same goes for the reportedly missing material. Saying something was deleted can mean very different things. A file might have been manually removed, automatically cleared by an app, stored somewhere else, or simply never downloaded to that device. Before anyone points fingers, investigators would need to establish what disappeared, when it disappeared, and whether there's a digital record showing how it happened. And there's another layer that could matter: the phones belonging to the other people who were there. Their photos, messages, location histories, and original video files could help reconstruct where different members of the group were during those disputed hours, especially if multiple devices independently show the same sequence of events. And if several phones independently show the same movements, that could be far more useful than relying on one person's memory.
So what is it? Is the last time you saw him at 3 o'clock with the girl, or 4:30 when you guys left Nolan and he supposedly said, "I'm good, I'm staying here"? What is it? This case is literally hurting my brain because nothing makes sense.
Investigators could potentially compare when photos were created, when calls were placed, which devices connected to certain networks, and whether location information lines up with the movements people described. One record by itself might not say much, but several matching records could help narrow down the timeline. There's also the question of the boats themselves. With multiple vessels reportedly moving around Horn Island and the surrounding area that day, identifying exactly which boat was where and at what time is crucial. A video showing 7 people aboard at 4:30 p.m. only tells us what was visible during that specific moment. It doesn't automatically establish what happened earlier or later, especially if people were moving between boats or different groups were leaving at different times. That's why the gap between roughly 4:30 p.m. and the later reported events deserves careful attention. Instead of filling that period with assumptions, investigators would need to establish a sequence using whatever reliable records are available. And then there's the 11:07 p.m. call to Christine, followed shortly afterward by the reported 11:13 p.m. Coast Guard call. Those timestamps provide firmer reference points later in the evening, but they also raise another important question. What happened between the final confirmed sightings on the island and the moment Nolan was officially reported missing? At this point, getting records from the different platforms could be one of the best ways to separate confirmed facts from assumptions. Until the phone data, platform records, and final official findings are fully available, the family's concerns and the friends' explanations may continue to tell two very different versions of what happened. Still, some people argue that even if Nolan voluntarily stayed behind, his friends should have made absolutely sure the 18-year-old had a safe ride home, especially if he wasn't in the best condition to travel alone. Others point to Nolan's phone and personal belongings reportedly remaining on the boat. Their question is simple. If he planned to stay on the island and arrange another ride, why would he leave behind the phone he might need to contact someone? But those questions alone don't prove a cover-up or establish that anyone intentionally did something wrong. The forensic evidence could make a huge difference here. If an official examination can determine whether Snapchat information was manually removed, automatically cleared, or never stored on the device, that could settle one of the biggest arguments surrounding the phone. And what about Christine's statements? When she said she didn't know the boys, was she describing how she personally understood those friendships, or did stress and confusion affect what she said? Based on what we currently know, it wouldn't be fair to claim intentional deception without solid evidence. Now I want to hear your take. Which unanswered detail do you think investigators most need to clarify? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this breakdown useful, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone following the case. Thanks for watching.